This one's going to be a little bit different, not a biker build video, but instead we've got a big comparison. Can a 4 kilowatt modded e-bike actually compare to a 25 kilowatt modded Surron? Or a better way to say this is, can the e-bike actually be a substitute for a high-powered modded e-moto? Now this seems like a totally unfair, invalid comparison, right? On the surface, yes it is. But with recent unfortunate developments in the e-moto community, this comparison is now more valid than ever. Lately, there's been a lot more discussion and interest about fast modded bicycles, e-bikes, in general, but especially in e-moto owner circles. I've seen a huge spike in the last 2 to 3 months in views of my CYC X1 bike videos, much more than before, surpassing even the Surron and battery build videos for the first time. Why is there this sudden interest in e-bikes now over Surrons? Well, that's an easy one-word answer: crackdowns. In many cities across the US and in cities in Europe and the UK, police and local municipalities are cracking down much harder on e-motos riding in the streets. Where before, cops might have looked the other way and let it slide, now e-moto riders are getting stopped more often than ever by the police. Sometimes riders are lucky and they just get off with a warning. But sometimes your bikes are impounded. That means you have to pay a fine to get them back out. And worst case scenario, sometimes bikes are even being confiscated and crushed. That means you totally lose your bike and you're out your investment of $4,000, $10,000, maybe even $15,000. Why? Why is this happening? Well, I hate to be the one to say I told you so, but I actually predicted this about 2 years ago after seeing tons of videos on YouTube and other social media of Surron riders, mostly teens, but not all teens, riding like complete idiots on the roads. They're doing wheelies through traffic, weaving in and out of cars, riding on major roads and highways, blowing through red lines and stop signs, and in general just completely disregarding all traffic laws. These guys, spurred on by the encouragement and showing how cool it is from some social media influencers who will remain nameless, these e-moto riders give the middle finger to cops time after time. And this idiotic and irresponsible riding has been causing more and more public outcry, getting more attention on the news, and that's forced cops to act. Don't believe me about this? Well, here's a little montage that I put together of riders behaving badly, or what I like to call cause and effect. So here is cause, which is bad riding.
I know you're chill, but just sit down for a second, okay?
And here is effect number 1, news reporting of the bad riding.
This is an issue we first told you about in Hermosa Beach. Groups of teenagers riding e-bikes and harassing people. And now it's a growing problem in many Southern California beach communities. NBC4's Anastasia Olmos is in Hermosa for us tonight, where the city just enacted an emergency order to deal with these e-bike riders. Anastasia.
That's right. Hermosa Beach followed Manhattan Beach in upping the fines for these e-bikers that break the rules, one of which is that the motor has to be off when riding on the Strand or the pier here. But we're finding that these issues stretch the coast from LA to Orange County. And the main problem is that these illegal bikes, they're e-bikes, they're not technically e-bikes, but they're electric motorcycles. It's been month after month of teens on e-bikes wreaking havoc in beach communities.
I was walking my dog and I saw a guy on an e-bike and just a swarm of kids all around him with weapons in their hands, like rocks and different things, trying to throw things at him.
Video after video posted to neighborhood social media from Redondo to Torrance. Groups of teens speeding and cursing at people, even throwing fireworks and M80s at homes.
Opened my door, could see the remnants falling on the house.
Within 20 minutes, we received 3 calls of kids behaving badly on e-bikes and creating a danger to the public. We responded. The kids scattered.
Many are not on e-bikes, but instead electric motorcycles.
As they scattered, one of them left their electric motorcycle behind.
Video taken by a Hermosa neighbor shows the boy and his father come back to pick up the bike that police were impounding, called a Surron, which can go up to 68 miles per hour and is not street legal.
The ones that are using the electric motorcycle type, they're very, very dangerous. They are disobeying traffic laws, and they're using those bikes to commit other crimes.
Now at 6, e-bikes may be an efficient and also fun way to travel, but they may be creating problems for some people in the South Bay. Gangs of teenagers are using the e-bikes to get around, and neighbors tell us they're being terrorized by those teens.
And tonight, those same neighbors say that they've just had enough. They want the police now to do something about it. Rachel Menitoff is live in Redondo Beach with reaction. Rachel.
Rick Kareen, several South Bay police departments say they are responding to reports of reckless biking and unruly teenagers, and this type of behavior typically increases during the summer months when kids are off of school. We do have some video to show you. It was posted to the Hermosa Beach Police Department's social media channels. Teens often ride in large groups along the Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, and Hermosa Beach strands near the piers. In some cases, passersby say they've been accosted, harassed, or assaulted by kids driving dangerously. Police departments have been impounding electric motorcycles and pocket bikes that are operating illegally.
But I've seen groups of them kind of messing with people, harassing people, and kind of yelling profanities and even kind of beating on people. Like I said in those videos, you want to mess around as a kid and stuff, but I feel like it's just a lot of freedom and a lot of responsibility to have one of those bikes, because it's basically like a motorcycle, you know.
They shouldn't be on either. And they're on when they're going to pop up because they don't follow like stop signs. And they're on the sidewalks too, which is also not, they shouldn't be on either.
New tonight, South Lake Minnetonka police have a warning for anyone who rides e-bikes. They say many riders keep breaking the law and creating dangerous situations like what you see here when these riders refused to pull over. We've told you about these issues with e-bikes in the past. Police say some people still just don't get it. Fox 9's Mike Manzoni is live in Excelsior tonight. And Mike, police say these kind of bikes don't even belong on the streets.
Yeah, Randy, the city put up that digital sign behind me a while ago to remind people about those rules. You're not supposed to ride an e-bike on a public road like this one. Still, that doesn't stop many people. And let's show you exactly what we mean. These videos show South Lake Minnetonka police chasing people riding e-bikes on the highway and on other roads like side streets, even with flashing lights following them. And you see that here. The riders don't pull over. Police are warning anyone who does this that it is a felony, a serious crime, no different than if you refuse to pull over driving a car.
And here is effect number 2, the police. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not some old Karen shouting at the sky. Like everybody, I love riding powerful things. I love riding fast in the dirt. I love riding in the street, too. I love speed and having fun. But the thing is, you have to ride responsibly. You have to ride with a brain. This crackdown by the cops across the U.S. and other places has caused a lot of discussion and lamenting by owners in e-moto forums. Of course, it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody when you have roaming gangs of e-moto riders terrorizing motorists and pedestrians because of the stupid behavior of a relatively few. It harms the e-moto community, it harms the e-moto reputation, and the market for these bikes. That's why there's been a growing interest in modded, fast e-bikes lately. What if you could have the performance and fun of a Surron or e-moto, but in a bicycle format? That way it won't draw attention from the cops, Karens won't chase you. By the way, check out this video.
Oh! You're going so fast! You're gonna catch me! Yeah, come on, dude! Oh yeah, dude! Yeah! Oh yeah, tricycle boy! Yeah, you get it! You get it! Yeah!
And you can ride calmly through parks, on bike paths, near pedestrians, on the side of the road, or on mixed-use trails. Wow, now a fast e-bike again sounds like a really great idea. Okay, but before getting to the big comparison test, I need to do a really quick rewind to about 10 years ago and the genesis of fast electric bike. Eric from Lunicycle, he's the one who really started it. He started the Facebook group. He originated the site electricbike.com. I have numerous build articles on there. He and another brilliant guy named Luke, I don't know his last name, but Luke later became the main battery engineer for Zero motorcycles. They were the first real e-bike modders. They were the first real hot rodders for e-bikes. Mainly, at that time, 10 years ago, they were using Cyclone motor, the original Cyclone motor, and even RC airplane motors to power the bikes. And since this was before lithium-ion batteries even really came about, they were mostly using homemade battery packs with LiPo batteries from RC cars strung together. Now, the point of fast electric bike was three-pronged. A, it's just a lot of fun to have a fast electric bike. It makes having a bicycle much, much more fun when it's way overpowered. B, with having a fast electric bike, you can get away, quote-unquote, with riding a bike anywhere that a bike is okay. You can ride around pedestrians. You can ride on bike paths. Nobody's going to say anything. And C, that is, therefore, no cops, no Karens, no confiscation. I like this idea a lot, so I started building fast electric bikes in 2016. I was using modded BBS HD motors. Stock, they were 48 volts and 1500 watts. I modded them to 3300 watts and 72 volts, and I custom made my own battery packs for the bikes. I made tons of videos about these first fast electric bikes with a BBS HD on my old channel, California Electrobike Ukraine. I'll put a link to it, of course, in the description here. Now, about the same time, I got one of the first ever e-motos, before that was even a term or a thing, in the U.S., the Coburg Freerider. I was one of the first e-moto riders and users in the U.S. and in North America. I absolutely love the Freerider. It's like a mini dirt bike. It's light and narrow, fast enough, great handling suspension. I absolutely loved that Coburg Freerider. But at that time, I was living in LA in the Calabasas area, and I would have never even imagined riding the motorcycle, the Freerider, on the road. I also love driving fast cars through the mountains of Malibu. There we had to deal a lot with the Lost Hills Sheriff's Office. They were total, how can I say, D ending in X, and they love to find and impound cars and motorcycles. So I worried, I would never have thought about riding the Freerider in the roads. I worried that cops would stop me and it would be impounded. I even worried when I was riding the Freerider in the mountains of Malibu and the fire roads in that area, I didn't want to run into a park ranger and again worry about having my bike confiscated. But when I was riding my fast electric bikes there, I never worried about it. I never worried about cops, park rangers, Karens, or impounding or confiscation. So that's a big plus of riding fast electric bikes, that you don't have to worry about all those things that motorcycles, the problems that you can get into and trouble you can get into with motorcycles. So that's a really quick background about fast electric bike. Both fast electric bikes and Surrons, you got to give credit, and thank you to Eric from Lunicycle because he really brought both of those to the U.S. Okay, so now finally to the comparison. Here's how I did the comparison. I made several different categories of tests. You're going to see them coming up here. I did the same tests on both bikes, on my 25 kilowatt modded Surron dirt bike and my modded 4 kilowatt CYC X1 dual suspension 2016 Canyon Nerve mountain bike. Quick thing, I'm going to put specs on the screen here really quick so you can see it. About those power ratings, 25 kilowatts and 4 kilowatts. You may be scratching your head a little bit about that because they don't match some previous numbers. About the Surron, first of all, you'll notice on my original build videos, I always called it 29 kilowatt. Yes, that is true if you don't think about voltage drop, if you don't take that into account. I made the build videos before I did all my huge battery tests. Afterward, I learned the Samsung 40T, not a really great cell for this purpose, has huge voltage drop, so actually with voltage drop is 25 kilowatts. About the CYC X1, I just need to really say quickly about the power. They advertised the Gen 3 as 5 kilowatt, or I think even 5200 watts, something like that. I never saw in my riding on the display, I never saw it draw anywhere over like 4,000, 4,100 watts. And I could tell by my butt dyno, seat of the pants, right away. As soon as I built that bike and started riding it, I thought, this doesn't feel like 5 kilowatts. It doesn't feel like 5.5 kilowatts. It feels like 25% more power than my modded BBS HD bikes, which are 3,300 watts. So yeah, about 4 kilowatts is all I'm seeing. It's not the battery limitation. My battery can put out way more than that. So it's either the controller or the motor. But that's all I'm seeing is 4 kilowatts. So now the thing is, in each category, so I'll show you here the category and both bikes being tested in that category. And then at the end, I give each bike a rating of 0 to 5 for each category. 0, of course, means terrible. It's useless for that category. 3 is kind of average or so-so. 5 means it's absolutely awesome for that. And of course, the main point is we're trying to answer the question here. For those of us who live in areas where e-motors are being outlawed, can a fast e-bike be a true substitute for a fast e-moto? Is it just as fun? Is it just as useful? Well, watch now and find out. Comparison 1, and I think this is the main one. How do the bikes do in crowded areas, near pedestrians, near other bikes, sidewalks, bike paths, parks? How are the bikes comparing in those areas? Okay, so here we are in the beautiful center, downtown LVIV. Historic, amazing city. I wouldn't ride the Surron here in the middle of the afternoon, or I should say the early evening when it's super crowded with people and tourists. Just too many people around. But now, seeing as it's Sunday morning, not a lot of people around, and I think it's not really a problem. The beautiful historic Greek church here. Hope you can see it, as I don't have my monitor handy. So yeah, LVIV has a lot of beautiful historic places. So for riding in a busy, kind of crowded area like this, in general, I would not take the Surron at all. I would definitely use the bike over the Surron for that purpose. Because it's early on Sunday, not a big deal to do it here. Part of the thing though is that this particular Surron is super loud with dual chain drives, with a super bright neon color scheme. So this bike gets a lot of attention. If you have a more subdued bike color scheme and dual belt drives where it's quieter, then obviously in highly trafficked areas, as long as you ride slowly and carefully, you're going to be okay. That says no electric scooters, no electric motorcycles. And I did have a guard there yell at me. Here, need to show you guys this also. Very important thing. This trail here Generally, I never take the Surron on. This is really just a walking trail, great for skateboard. Since it's early, we'll go here. But, you know, a path like this, park path, obviously the bicycle is going to be better, because you will get people who will scream at you on, you know, this kind of path. But very nice thing about the Surron, very nice thing about the light B, as I just showed in that uphill section, because it's so powerful, I've got it set on 19 kilowatts now, because you got so much power on tap with a modded light B, heavy duty suspension. Well, the Dorado's not really heavy duty, but compared to a mountain bike, heavy duty suspension, heavy duty tires, you know, any sort of obstacle you can just fly over, power over with no problem at all. So that's a big plus. Famous LVIV Opera House. Normally fountain is working here in spring and summer, but not right now. They're doing some repair. And here you've got the main central walking street. Again, here generally you're not going to take the Surron. You know, not going to take it on a pedestrian area. Riding on a bicycle path. Can you do it on a Surron? Yes, you can. Main thing, careful, slow and respectful. Except when there's a jump in the bicycle path. Yep, you can be in your 50s. You can be well into your 50s. A total hooligan. I've taken this Surron here many times. Almost, I was going to say never had a problem. Almost never had a problem. You know, I go, when there's people around, obviously you're going to go slowly and respectfully, like I'm doing now, right? You don't want to, it's just common sense, which is not so common now. Anyway, but last year I posted about this on the Facebook Surron Modders group. I did have an old dude try to rip me off my bike. I was exiting the park near the exit on a trail just like this one, wide trail. There was an old guy about 20 meters ahead of me coming toward me. You know, he was on kind of his wrong side, the left side, this way, walking towards me. I'm trying to go further to the right to go around him, and he's still walking straight towards me. So I go like this to go around him. I was going about 15 kilometers per hour, and the dude lunges over and tries to grab my shirt and rip me off the bike. He was old, like 70, but a big guy. It looked like an ex, you know, not FSB, but ex, you know, security service agent or something. Big dude. He just tried to grab me and rip me off the bike, and it was like, it was about like how many people are now, you know, a handful of people, but, and again, I was going about 15 kilometers per hour. So you just have to be careful. Obviously, even riding slowly and respectfully, you just need to be really aware of your surroundings. Because other people actually have posted about this, that there's been times where, you know, I mean, yeah, it's one thing to have somebody yell at you or be upset, but there's been other riders who have actually had people try to physically rip them off the bike. So just be aware of your surroundings. By the way, just beautiful, beautiful park here. Okay, try to use my last couple percent here because this has a pretty view. Cool spot. Nice view over the city. Braking with my regen. Okay, and that's it. So we're back where we started with the Surron. Back where we started with the Surron before, at the main center walking street in LVIV. This time with the Canyon bike. Let's see how it does. Obviously the whole point of having a fast e-bike is you can ride, oops, there's my thumb. You can ride quietly, slowly, carefully, not bother anybody. So let's see how we do. But we will do the on-road ride. So this is obviously this situation where you're around pedestrians, where you're on mixed-use trails, where you're with other people with bicycles, walkers, scooters, all that stuff. This is obviously, you know, the whole, what's the French word, raison d'etre? The whole reason why you get a fast e-bike. So you can ride quietly, still have high performance, but ride quietly around other people and around bicyclists. Okay, so this is a great place to start filming. Let's see if I can see myself. Can you see me in the reflection? There I am. Anyway, so you don't get much more high density, lots of people around, tourists, etc. than the very center of LVIV. Even on a weekday, obviously a lot of people around walking, a lot of tourists, and of course, like I said, same as with mixed-use trails, same as on sidewalks and all that. Of course, now this guy, let's stop for a sec. This guy, of course, doesn't really look like a normal quote-unquote bicycle. So like I was saying, you know, when I'm in a highly populated, you know, very dense area with pedestrians, with tourists and that, I'm not a huge fan of pedal assist. I like to just pedal. And when you're away from people, when you're, you know, in an area that's free, you can just go full power. But I've never been a fan of pedal assist. The great thing is, you know, this thing is nice and light. It's very easy to pedal, almost feels like you're pedaling, riding a regular bike. So very easy, just when you want to be quiet, kind of stealthy, pedal it like a regular bike. That's it. So yeah, obviously, center of LVIV, riding this bike here, no problem. You know, I wouldn't tear through here when there's a lot of people, but like I said, when riding the Surron, I have taken my dirt build. Oh shit! I have taken my dirt build here through the center of LVIV many times, but it's almost always really early on a weekend. You know, when there's not a lot of people around. Back to the famous, oop, hold on, let's pan up. Back to the famous Greek church here. Beautiful place, lots of history. So, yeah, you know, Surron is obviously gonna get a lot more attention than this, which is just power-assisted bicycle. So since we're not going to the Harry Potter trail today till it dries, let's do a little tour through LVIV. I hope my height setting is right. I thought that was an Urus for a sec. This is famous Verminska Street, which is considered to be the old Jewish quarter of Lviv. The bike, it's no problem. Go ahead. It's a famous courtyard here. Very beautiful place for photo shoots. One good thing about the, oh shit, about having the CYC X1 drivetrain on this bike, no, having it in general, is it's not silent, which is a good thing. This is like a very famous spot, photo shoots for all our Ukrainian girls. What I was saying is, good thing about the X1 that it's not totally silent, that it does make a little bit of a whine, because you can control how loud you are. So if you want to be silent in a certain situation, you just turn off the power and you're coasting just like a regular bike. If you want a pedestrian in front of you to hear you, you just nail the throttle and you get a nice high-pitched whine, and you can you know, you let them know that you're coming. So that's actually a really useful thing. Now we're on Lesy Ukrainka. A really cool thing that I didn't know before about this street. No, obviously you've got all the cafes, little shops, mostly cafes and bars. Very nice, comfortable street for walking. But one thing I didn't know about this street that I've learned from spending more time in Lviv is, if you look on Google Street View of this this exact street, this stretch, the street view is from like 2011, so 14 years ago. I think they have 11 and 15, both look similar. But this used to be a rundown, crappy, crowded with parked cars strewn everywhere, graffiti covered, facade crumbling, just piece of shit, very not comfortable atmosphere street. This Lesy Ukrainka. So they undertook this reconstruction, and they really did an awesome job of making the city much more friendly for walkers, for tourists, brought in a lot of business and cafes. So it's a great example of how a crowded urban, obviously this type of city exists mainly in Europe. You're not going to see this in US in most places. But yeah, they really transformed some of these streets from crowded with cars, crappy looking, not comfortable, to really nice, comfortable walking streets. Okay, back on the main center walking street here. Gonna do a little road riding in a second, show you how that goes. Like I said, obviously you can much more comfortably, with peace of mind, ride this in a place like this. Yeah, so obviously in a park like this, a lot of pedestrians there, you can ride the bike very calmly through here, like I was saying. Although this park I've ridden the Surron in probably 120 times, but usually early in the morning. What I wanted to say, there's been a lot of rocket attacks, missile attacks on Lviv also. But the thing is, As far as people going to cafes, you know, relaxing, what are the guys doing? How come all the guys aren't in ZSU? Lviv is pretty much the only city in Ukraine that is like that. Maybe Rivne, Lutsk, a couple other in the far west, where there is kind of really a semblance of quote-unquote, you know, normal reality. Okay, back at the beautiful Strisky Park, this time with a Canyon CYC bike. Obviously, in a place like this, especially when it's crowded, that's the whole reason that you build a fast electric bike, like I said. So you still have something that's quite high performance, no, for a bicycle, really high performance, but you can just cruise quietly. You can pedal. And you can actually do a form of pedal assist if you need to by pedaling there and just giving a little bit of throttle. So this is the whole reason why it's nice to... Nice gimbal. It's the whole reason why you do a fast electric bike. Perfect for it. Don't have to worry about it. I never had a huge old guy try to rip me off the bike on any of my fast e-bikes, like happened with the Surron here in the same park. So now obviously trade-off is you have a lot less power, way less torque, way less responsiveness, way less range, way less amps, and you have some pretty fragile bicycle components that you're putting all that power through. Even if it's only 4 kilowatts, it's still, you know what, 8 times human power. The thing I want to mention and show is, if you can see, the comical amount of delay in the throttle. How much delay you have. So here is throttle. If you can see, oh my god, that thing. It's like throttle, wait, throttle? Now? 1, 2, 3. There, that showed it. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So if you can see that, and I'll show it more on trail riding, but there is a ridiculous delay, I think thanks to the back 2000, between throttle application, no, just you're going through reduction and 2 chains. There's a huge, ridiculous, comical now delay in between throttle application and the power actually getting applied. Other thing I need to mention here, which I didn't mention yet, I'm going to mention on the trail riding, but we're on a big downhill now, big downhill section. What I really miss on this bike, no regen, absolutely no regen, just mechanical MT7s only, no regen. And I absolutely love having regen on the Surron. I use it all the time with the X9000. Another here, long downhill, when I ride the Surron here, hold on a second. When I ride the Surron here, I'm just always on regen. Here, obviously, just on the brakes. So I really hate wasting energy I love to recoup a little bit of a charge in the battery and use regen. And I use it, like I said, I use it all the time on the Surron. Go on this fun little section. Again, on a bike, it's no problem. Surron, I take here usually just very early in the morning. But again, regen, big downhill. I would be using regen like crazy here. And for comparison number 1, my score is Surron 2 and CYC Bike 5. As you saw, Surron is kind of loud, gets a lot of attention, not really good for crowded areas, whereas the fast e-bike, no problem at all. Comparison 2, street riding, but I divided this into 2 categories. First, this is for local and in-town road use, not for long road trips, but riding in the city or locally. You know, about riding the street, I've never had a problem. Never had a problem here riding the street. However, that of course can't be applied everywhere because it depends on where you're at, your municipality, your police. You know, and again, that's the whole kind of premise of this video is like I said, that's the whole premise of this video because of a lot of people riding e-motos very stupidly. Police are cracking down on them in a lot of places. In Ukraine, as far as that's concerned, I'm quite lucky because here it's like it was in US when e-motos first started, like 2017, 18. There's very few Surrons here. So, again, this bike, you know, is basically like a YZ250 on the street. That's why so many riders get supermotos. But, and I originally just did that for this bike. But I realized that really to make it quiet and smooth and for long road riding, everything had to be changed. The 2-chain drive needed to be belts, supermoto tires, wheels, tires obviously. And that's why I decided to just go ahead and build a completely separate bike for street use. So this bike on the street isn't really a good representation. If you're going to use it for commuting, you know, and for everyday practical uses, obviously you're not going to have moto tires and 2-chain drives. So I'm going to give my street use rating with that in mind. That this particular bike is not really designed for that. Although I've used it, I've gone on long road trips, 35, 40 kilometers road trips, you know, one way and back. And it's been super fun on long road trips, but obviously this bike not designed for long road trips. But it still is super fun for street use. You know, again, it looks like what's going to happen is if you want to use it in most places now, if you want to use it for street use, you're going to end up just having to, you know, do lights, turn signals, everything to make it road legal and register it as road legal. Which, to be honest, it's kind of fair. It's not really right that, I mean, I love Surrons and e-motos and dirt bikes, but it's not really right that just because they're electric, e-motos should get a pass on having to be made street legal. So I think in most, no, in Ukraine it's not going to happen probably until if we're in the EU, but I think in most municipalities, you know, it's going to be, you have to be 16 and you have to register it. Has to have all the normal motorcycle things to be street legal. When the terrorists do have an attack there, you can see some of the broken glass. People here clean it up very, very quickly, as much as possible. In Kherson, that doesn't really happen because there's still constant attacks going on. But in other cities, you know, people clean up very quickly. Now, about riding on the road, obviously you can ride it on the road. You can ride it on the road. In city traffic, in city riding, you're going to be able to keep up with traffic okay, up to, you know, 55, 60, 65, 70 kilometers an hour. Nice turn signal. Perfect example though. That's why I don't like riding a bicycle in the street. No, obviously in city traffic, you can keep up with traffic, you know, up to like 40 miles an hour. But I'm just not a big fan of riding a bicycle on the street with traffic. The Surron is much better, at least in the regard that you can keep up with traffic flow. Hear that? Part of the enjoyment of living next to terrorist state of Russia. Duh. Yeah, I forgot to mention, that during that ride, the trail ride, oh, I know there's going to be wind noise now. I didn't bring the windsock. So that's street bicycling in LVIV. Like I said, it's like New York City. The noise, the traffic, the craziness. And my score for comparison 2, I give the Surron 4 and the fast electric bike 4, but for different reasons. The Surron, now this highly, of course, depends on the area that you're in, your municipality, how the police relate to the Surron, and if you're going to have any problems riding it with the police. Also, this dirt bike, not great for the street, obviously. That's why you want to have a street build with supermoto street tires and ideally dual belt drive for street use. For the fast electric bike, it's great for local street use, but again, like I said in the video, I'm not a fan of riding in the street. I don't think it's very safe with a lot of distracted drivers. So if you're comfortable riding a bike in the street, then yeah, the fast e-bike can do a great job on that. Comparison 3, street riding, but this time for long road trips. We're talking 30, 40, 50, 60 miles even, taking the bikes on really long road trips. Now, because the CYC X1 bike can't do long road trips because of its range, I'm going to show you here just a really quick montage of all the road trips. I've taken it on dozens, the Surron, on dozens of long road trips over just the first season of use. And I have to tell you, I had an amazing amount of fun. Even though this is a dirt bike build, the long road trips I've taken it on have been amazing. And here's just a little montage of what I've done with the bike and all the long road trips I've taken the Surron on in just the first season of use. Blows me away how rich the villages are here. This kind of stuff is exactly where she belongs. It's only like 4 kilometers from center. And I have at least for now, I have the big riding area to my, it's like vertical and there's tire tracks. Somebody actually tried to go up that. Anyway, I have to say that this little pond and park, by the way, that's a cool sculpture, isn't it? Give you guys a little tour through historic Old Town center of LVIV. And no. September 1st, Sunday morning. Sunshine, but instead Prius. Anyway, we're back here at the Polytechnic University, and one super important thing I forgot to mention about street riding, about riding the bike versus the Surron on the road. I need to divide my, it's really as loud as New York City here, by the way. I need to divide my rating into road riding around town and road riding for long trips, because very important thing is the range. This battery that I custom built for this bike, although it's great, it's high power, you know, I had to squeeze it into the frame and do a really funky layout to get it to fit. The battery is great, but the range is super small. This is a Samsung 40T, also just like the Surron, but this is a 20S 3P, so only 60 cells, whereas the Surron is a 22S 9P, which is 198 cells. That's perfect walking behind the shot. So yeah, this battery is, I believe, 864 watt hours, and the Surron is 2880 watt hours. So this battery is less than a third the capacity of the Surron battery. So your range is much, much less. And so my score for long road trips, well, that's pretty simple. The Surron gets a solid 5. Now, obviously, again, this depends on where you live. You're in a municipality, how the cops are in relation to e-motos. And, of course, a street build is going to be better for long road trips with street wheels and tires and belt drive. So the Surron gets a 5, and unfortunately, the fast e-bike gets a 0. Can't do long road trips because of the range. Okay, comparison number 4, mixed use trail riding. I think this is the other really important comparison to make, because both of these bikes are designed not just for road use, but you also want to be able to use them on trail riding. That's one of our big uses for them. So this is a great example of a mixed use trail. I've ridden the Surron here a handful of times. It's super fun. I've ridden the mountain bike here more times than the Surron, because in general, obviously with the mountain bike, you're not going to offend anybody, have any confrontation, anything like that. Again, because of the day and time that I'm going here, Sunday morning, it's not early Sunday morning. It's not busy, but yeah. You know, on a trail like this, obviously, Surron is super, super fun. I mean, check this trail out, how pretty this is. You'll see in a second here why I call it Harry Potter trail. Some of the forest, whoop, hold on, gotta show you. Some of the forest here looks like something straight out of a Harry Potter movie. Listen. Okay, let's continue further on the Harry Potter forest path. Like I was saying, I've ridden the Surron here a handful of times. I did get yelled at by like a park ranger. Oop, that's heavy mud, we're not going to go in that, since I just spent a day cleaning the bike. Oh, this is the real, hold on, you guys got to see this. This is the real Harry Potter-esque. Ooh, it's getting interesting to see how we do in low light. You can see that view. Pretty cool. Really reminds me of something out of a Harry Potter movie. So, you know, never had any confrontations. Like I said, just, hi there, little guy. Hi, привет. You just have to be slow, careful, respectful, you know, common sense, things that you think everybody would have. This is new. Before, they just put this guardrail up. Before it was not there, you could just really easily plummet to your death. Hold on, I gotta show you guys. how cool the view is here. Hold on. Need to check my monitoring. Let's look over the new guardrail. Oh, looks like it's doing okay in low light. I have it set to maximum 400 ISO, so sure we have low shutter speed. Listen. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, let's go further. Since this is the narrowest spot on the path, but you know, bike paths, mixed use trails, yeah, you can get away with, quote unquote, riding the Surron there. Obviously though, and this was the whole reason that fast electric bike as a concept was started by Eric. If you're on a bicycle here, no, a high performance bicycle, but nobody knows that by looking at it. If you're on a bicycle, oh, hold on, if you can see that, nice view of LVIV. You know, you can be on something with 5 kilowatts, 4 or 5 kilowatts with high performance, but it looks like a regular bicycle. Then you're going to blend in a lot better. It's going to be almost silent, and you're not going to have any potential, you're going to stave off any potential conflicts with other people. Now again, like I said, hold on, I gotta show you guys this view. I went at this time in particular, Sunday morning. Pretty cool view, huh? I went on Sunday morning here, especially to not, you know, run into a lot of people for potential conflicts. But like I said, you can ride an e-moto on mixed use trails. If you're going to do it a lot, I recommend get one, or at least do your color scheme that's not so bright, you know, kind of blackish, sort of fits in. And dual belt drives like I did on my street build are a great idea because it makes it much quieter. And part of the issue, you know, is the noise. People hear the sound and immediately think that there's something, you know, big and annoying coming. If it's almost silent, it helps a lot. But like I was saying, that's the whole reason fast electric bike started, was so that you would have high performance. Hold on, let's blast up this. Overshot that turn a little. My rear brake is messed up, my mechanical rear brake. I know I've been like saying that Magura I'm a fan of, and everybody hates on Magura because it's mountain bike brakes, although they have a new model that's great. But anyway, my rear brake right now is out of commission. I'm just using regen because the handle, the reservoir in the handle started leaking, so got to replace it. So I'm not 100% fan of Magura anymore, but I'll show you here the difference. That was a pretty steep uphill section, and a powerful Surron, you know, anything like that, it just makes absolute light work of it. It's no problem to go up a huge hill. You'll see when I ride the Canyon bike here the difference. But one thing I want to mention here, going downhill, if you can see, I'm using regen, and actually for just about all my braking, I use regen now. I use it like crazy. I absolutely love the efficiency and putting power back into the battery. Now, yeah, you are giving it a bunch of micro charge cycles, that's true, but I absolutely love using regen braking. I love putting it back into electrical energy. If you guys can see, I'm not going to go further, so I don't want to go off the mountain here, but also nice view of LVIV from this spot. So yeah, the performance level, of course, you're not going to use all the performance of the bike here like you would on a motocross track, but the performance level of a modded Surron, I mentioned in my videos, I used to ride motocross. I used to race BMX for several years as a kid. I got a YZ80, saved up and worked for a YZ80 when I was 10 and had that for like 6 years. Then when I turned 30, I got myself a 1996 Jeremy McGrath-esque YZ250 two-stroke. Rode that a lot. So my background is more in motocross. And, you know, the performance level of this, it's not a YZ250, but it has such a high performance level combined with no exhaust, no smoke, no fumes, you know, quiet. You can take it different places. Those attributes combined, and being light and compact, really make it a an appealing package, that you can have such a high performance envelope with something that's quiet, light, small, and avoid the mud. Quiet, light, small, and environmentally clean. It's just a really cool thing. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love e-moto and LVIV. And I was not the first, but one of the first actually fans of e-motos. If you look on my other channel, California Electric Bike Ukraine, I made, I think, a couple videos of it. But I was one of the early owners of the Kuber Freerider in LA when I lived there, and I absolutely love that bike. Now, of course, that's only like 6 kilowatts. They say 8, but I think it's 6 or 7. And it has a pretty low top speed. But the Freerider, what I loved about it, super light, super narrow. It's actually more of a teen bike, kid's bike, than an adult-sized bike. The body is super narrow, super light, 79 pounds. This is about almost double that. You could just throw it on the back of the car, take it anywhere. But again, that, when I was in LA, I would have never ever taken that bike. Would have never taken that bike on the streets, the mean streets of Calabasas or Malibu, because Lost Hill sheriffs are real pricks there. And I really thought that they would, if I rode that bike on the street, like kids do nowadays, I never rode that bike on the street because I thought for sure it was asking to get it, you know, impounded or confiscated. So I would never do that. And riding e-motos on the street, what started out as kind of a, you know, rebellious, ballsy. And I understand every generation has their rebellious stage. And in a way, riding on the street, it started out as kind of a cool thing. But then, as I predicted 2 years ago, you had so many idiots riding like complete fools, you know, wheeling through traffic, riding on major highways, blowing through red lights, you know, completely just saying F you to the cops, that I predicted a couple years ago that the cops would start to crack down on e-motos, you know, and unfortunately that's exactly what's happened. So okay, battery's almost dead on the new GoPro, so I just want to show you here in Strisky Park, one of my favorite little trails, hillside little mountain bike trails, and just give you my impressions how it is riding the Surron. By the way, all the previous riding clips I've done, all the previous riding, that was on my lowest setting, which is 12 kilowatts. So all the riding was at 12 kilowatts so far. I just bumped it up to the medium setting, which is 19. again, around other people, just go slow and respectful, you know, common sense. But to be honest, I rarely use full power on this bike. I mean, I do sometimes, like on the motocross track or something. By the way, this is still the original 40T battery pack. I haven't put the JP40 Ampere in it yet. This, you know, on full power, this bike is about 25 kilowatts. So anyway, but, you know, going up a big hillside, a big incline, it's ridiculously fun. It's just super, super fun. I don't want to scare the old lady again. And this cute Labrador. So whistle around other people. Yeah, the power level, you know, it is super addictively fun. So I think that's going to be it for now. I think my battery's dying, and that's going to be it for shooting. Going to show you one more quick thing with a fresh battery, but yeah, that's it. Super, super, super fun. That's all I can say about modded Light B. Okay, so I have camera set up for standing position, not sitting, because I noticed the camera's too low when I have it correct for sitting. Anyway, I'm reshooting this section through the Harry Potter forest trail because this morning my tire was going flat. In general, tubeless on mountain bike, it's my first time doing tubeless. It's cool in that there makes your tires very puncture resistant. You know, also supposedly it saves 150 grams or something, but to be honest, when you put the fix-a-flat stuff, I think the fix-a-flat stuff you put in is going to weigh actually more than the tube that you're saving. So anyway, long story short, tubeless tires are cool, but they leak air over time. They slowly leak. So I would, if I were to do it again, I would just do regular tube tires. I'll probably change these for tube over the winter. Anyway, back to the bike and how it compares to the Surron. No, through mixed-use trails like this, where you've got dog walkers, you got, you know, people, hikers, stuff like that, elderly. Well, we'll avoid the mud here again. Obviously, bike is much better. You can just, and the great thing is, if you want to be quiet to go by somebody, turn off the power, shift up a couple gears, and pedal. You're like a regular bike. You know, sound is a big part of the perception. So here, whoop, you're totally quiet. I almost crashed in there last time to avoid the mud. But when you want to make some sound, you can make the sound of your gears slipping like mine is. I think I mentioned it elsewhere. Oh, by the way, again, Harry Potter forest, very beautiful, super calm and quiet. Like I said, you can be quiet or as loud as you want. Yeah, you'll hear, going uphill here, the chain is slipping on the rear cassette. I looked at the cassette closely. It's steel. It doesn't look like it's wearing at all. So like I said, 10-speed bicycle chain, super thin, that's designed for human power. A bike like this, you're putting in 10 times as much watts. So it's gonna wear out quickly, and hold on, I wanna show you this quickly. It's gonna wear out super quick. Check out that view. Pretty cool, huh? Very pretty forest here. like I said, things like your chain, cassette, the spline that the rear cassette goes to, those are all going to wear out much faster than just a human powered bike. So chain is definitely dying. If anybody knows in the comments, if you know of a 10-speed bicycle chain, a super strength, like an ultra strong 10-speed, I'm using like KMC ultra, you know, metal, whatever, supposedly they're strongest. But if you know of one that's stronger, let me know. Because obviously you hear it slipping there. You know, this amount of power with my weight on that light, putting a huge strain on that chain and cassette. So here's the section uphill. This is a big uphill where I just blasted in the Surron. Now it's like I really need to pedal to help. And you hear it slipping like crazy. Oh my God. I gotta let up. Holy shit. Yeah, that's worse than it was before. You hear it just slipping like crazy. No, I think that's the chain slipping on the cassette. Maybe it's the cassette slipping on the spline, like I was saying. It's possible that's it too. I just switched from 4th to 5th gear. But like I was saying, yeah, you wear out components much faster. Now here, this is a section where I mentioned in the Surron, I love to use regen on big downhills like this. I love to use that, you know, use energy efficiently and put power, electricity back in the battery from kinetic energy. I really miss having regen on the bike. I don't know of any mid-drive, you know, maybe the Bosch does it, but any aftermarket, you know, mid-drive, DIY mid-drive that has regen feature. If one of them does, that would be super cool. I don't think the newer CYC has it either. But yeah, the bike is super fun on trails like this. I mean, you can blast through here. Get a little air. For 58 years old, that's about my maximum amount of air. Now we're in the narrow parts, so I gotta go slow. And not bother any, not have any conflict. But, you know, the question is, okay, so is the bike completely a substitute for the Surron? Is it as fun? And definitely not. I've known since I started building fast e-bikes almost 10 years ago now, one tenet, one rule is always true, which is more power equals more fun. With any PEV, whether it's been scooters, bikes, motorcycles, cars, any PEV, you know, the first time you ride a little motorized scooter with 750 watts or less, it's really fun, you enjoy it, but then you start to want more power, so then 1,500, 2,000 watts, lots of fun, half a year, you want more power. More power is always fun, and just ridiculously huge power, like, you know, my modded Surron and other super modded Surrons have. Ridiculously modded power means ridiculously fun. And obviously with, you know, suspension and braking components to match. And on my modded Surron, you know, currently in its current state, I have not the best suspension and braking components, not the highest end, obviously, but they still, for my riding ability level, they work fine. So yeah, on trails like this bike is super fun, but not as fun as a Surron. I enjoy riding the Surron here more, but every time I do it, I worry because one time, no, they do actually have a rule on this trail. Okay, so there you saw both videos, riding both bikes on mixed-use trails. Here's my scoring. The Surron gets 2, and the CYC X1 bike gets a 4. The Surron gets a 2 because mainly, as you saw, as I mentioned, it gets attention from other people. You can run into problems with trail users, dog walkers, you know, other bicyclists can yell at you, possibly police or park rangers. It's super fun, super fun to ride, super powerful, much better than the mountain bike, the CYC X1 bike. For that reason, it would make the score higher. But again, I think you can run into problems more with Surrons. So gets a 2. Maybe I would give it 2.5, but we'll give it a 2 for now. Now the CYC X1 bike, why does that not get a 5, a solid 5? You saw that it was fun to ride there, and obviously I had no problems. The CYC X1 bike only gets a 4 because performance. The power is so much less than the Surron. The handling is so much less than the Surron. The Surron's power and handling and just everything about it makes it much more fun to ride through the mixed-use trails. So, yeah, I think actually, you know what? I'm gonna, because the Surron is so fun to ride, I'm gonna actually move it up, bump it up to a 3 instead of a 2. Okay, next, comparison number 5, what I call the LVIV croissant test. Now, what the heck is LVIV croissant, and what is a LVIV croissant test? I'm sure you're asking. I just call it that because here's what I'm talking about. I like to sometimes, and I think a lot of us do this, you like to just go for a ride on your bike or your e-moto, and then at your destination or on the way, just stop at some cafe, especially if the weather's nice. Stop somewhere, get an iced coffee, get a Slurpee, get an ice cream, something like that. And if all the tables are full, or even if you just don't feel like sitting at a table, you can sit on your bike and sit and, you know, browse your phone, have your drink, use your bike as kind of a little portable lounge chair. So, okay, got the big camera out. So here we are, LVIV Croissants in beautiful Strisky Park. When you're riding and you want to just stop somewhere and sit and rest and kind of use the bike, you know, as your portable sitting spot, Surron is much more comfortable for that because you have a nice low seat height. Like I said, I'm like 5'9", 32-inch inseam. Because you have a nice low seat height, I can actually sit, you can see, sit with my knee bent a little bit, you know, comfortably on the bike. And you want to just sit and rest and, you know, go to the park, go to a cafe or something and use your two-wheeler vehicle as your portable chair. Surron is super comfortable for that. So yeah, for the LVIV croissant test, Surron does great. So we're here for the LVIV croissant test. Let's see how it does as a portable chair, portable lounge chair, couch to sit on, you know, when you go to a cafe or store, someplace where you want to sit, use your bike as a portable chair. Okay, hopefully I can talk over copyrighted music. So we're back here at LVIV Croissant. I'm going to talk kind of loud over the music, and time to do the LVIV croissant test, like I said. Now, obviously the bike got me here great, no problem. Going through the park, that was fine, nice and quiet. But here's the big issue. Now, of course, you can ride, park at your table, whatever. But what I say about the LVIV croissant test is, can you go somewhere and stop while you're riding and sit on the bike while you're eating, while you're having a coffee, something like that. So I'm going to try to sit on the bike now. If you can see the seat height, I'll try and show that here. See where that back of that chair is? The seat is as high as the back of the chair. It's actually about an inch higher than the back of this bar stool chair. So imagine swinging your leg over the back of that chair to sit on there comfortably. That's what I'm talking about the seat height. Obviously it's the case with all mountain bikes, dual suspension, but here, okay, sitting on the bike, if you can see, there's the controls, and I don't know if you can, I can't really show it here. No, I can't change the GoPro view, but I am absolutely on maximum tippy toes just to stand like this. Absolute total tippy toes, as high as I can go. Not comfortable at all, not comfortable to stand. The other option is to stand like this, which obviously you can't see, but basically you can stand so your crotch is right there, straddling the battery pack. That way at least you can kind of stand on the bike, but again, not very comfortable. Don't really want to have my battery pack basically touching my, you know, genitals. So for the LVIV croissant test, where I'm talking about where you want to stop and be able to sit on the bike, you know, comfortably, use it kind of as your lounge chair wherever you're going, the bike completely fails at that. does not perform well as a portable lounge chair. Okay, so my scores for the LVIV CROISSANT test. Well, as you saw in the video there, the Surron gets a solid 5. It's perfect for stopping somewhere, ordering something. Sitting on the bike is super comfortable because the seat height is not too high, especially if you're not a super tall person. Super comfortable to sit on, and also it just looks cool sitting there. So yeah, for just going to some cafe and sitting on your bike and having a drink, perfect. The CYC X1 bike, I'm going to give it a 1 instead of 0. You saw for me, it's absolutely a no-go to stop and sit on it. The seat height is way too high. Okay, next comparison, number 6, the motocross track test. How do these bikes do on a real motocross track with jumps, berms, sharp turns, and all that kind of stuff? Totally unfair comparison. You're talking a fully equipped motocross bike designed for dirt bike functions versus, you know, a mountain bike. Thing is, obviously it's an unfair comparison, but anyway, I think it's valid because we're talking about, can a high-powered mountain bike, you know, CYC powered mountain bike, be a substitute for a modded light beam, for a Surron? So big part of the use of the Surron, of the dirt Surron in general, is on motocross track. Now we have a full-size, huge, built into a side of a mountain motocross track here in LVIV area, but there was torrential rain here a few days ago, and I'm sure it's solid mud. So I'm just going to take you on our local little motocross track. You see, even here, kind of muddy, and give you my impressions how it is riding this around here. Now on this little mini track, I have probably ridden this light bee 500 times. I love this little track. So you know, I love the handling, the suspension, even though the Dorado is kind of too soft. Gotta go not my normal way. The control in the air is great because it's a narrow, you know, you can grip the seat with your knees when you're jumping. Obviously, the throttle response is instant. I'll talk about that more on the Canyon bike, about throttle response. You can do nice, you know, low turns. It's just, you know, granted, this is not a real motocross track, but for retirees, it's a great level for me. But on jumps, you know, angle turns, the power, the handling, it's just an absolute joy. That's why, like I said, even though this is not a real motocross track, I've ridden here probably 500 times. So yeah. For motocross, the modded light bee definitely gets a 5 out of 5. Ridiculously fun. Ridiculously fun. That alone, to me, is worth the money. Okay, so had to quickly run to the motocross track here, fill up the tire with air, run here before it runs out of air so I can do the motocross portion on the bike. I think what happened was that the valve stem came loose. Last time I filled up with air, the valve stem came loose. But anyway, let's talk about jumping, riding on motocross track. Girls, you know, it's fun. If you like mountain biking, tire's already low, so I gotta do this quickly. If you like mountain biking, trail riding, you know, obviously you're getting a power assisted bicycle, but as far as, you know, comparing the power level, comparing the suspension, comparing everything that you can do on it, you hear the chain slipping. That just recently started, so chain is wearing out, or the sprocket, not the sprocket because it's metal. But anyway, you know, if I were to rate the fun level riding on this local mini motocross track. Okay, here we are back at the mini motocross track. Again, my second time filming the sequence today, because first time had an air leak in that guy. The stem was leaking. So we're gonna try this again and not hurrying so much to finish the shot. I absolutely love riding the Surron here. You know, it's just got a few little jumps, a few little hills. Hold on. As I was saying, I've ridden the Surron here probably 500 times. And, you know, the question is, it is like a nice little substitute for a motocross track. A few little jumps, and get air on this bike in the Surron. So how does this bike compare to Surron? Well, first of all, on this turn, I just nail the power there in that corner, have a nice rooster tail, and just power through that corner. The bike cannot do that at all. It's a totally different world. You know, I just lean over on the Surron, nail the throttle, even on 12 kilowatts only, throw up some dirt, and fly through that turn. This bike doesn't do that. About jumps, Surron obviously feels more planted, more solid, you know, but this is a mountain bike. It's a powered bicycle, power assisted bicycle. So if you're used to riding on mountain bike trails or downhill trails, this is totally familiar to you. You know, it's fine. You just have a nice little power assist. But, you know, I think it's a good testament to the fun level to say that last year, the first full season I had the dirt Surron, last year, I rode this little track probably 500 times, like I said, on the Surron. The bike, this bike, don't want to hit that tree, I probably rode on it 10 times and 500 times on the Surron. So that right there shows you the fun level. And let's talk just real quick about motocross. So there is, like I said, there's a full-size motocross, huge outdoor motocross track in the LVIV area here. It's built onto the side of a mountain, so it has huge uphill and huge downhill sections. I took the Surron on it several times. Okay, so you saw the video there from both bikes. What's my rating? Well, I think you can see from that the Surron gets a definite 5. Now, of course, I wasn't in full power mode. I wasn't railing it over huge jumps. This wasn't on a huge motocross track. But I can tell you, like I said in the clip, I have ridden my dirt build on a huge outdoor motocross track many times where I did use the full power, and it is just ridiculously fun. Yeah, the fast e-bike, the CYC X1 bike, I give that a 1, not a 0, because, no, for smaller, you know, like a BMX track with small jumps, yes, you can anywhere that you would take a BMX dual mountain bike, you can use it for that kind of use for small jumps and stuff. But compared to the Surron with the power, the handling, the solidity of the frame, the suspension, no, the Surron is just, when you get on the CYC X1 bike immediately after riding the Surron, you notice a big difference. Surron, more power, much more fun for motocross. Okay, here we go. This is probably, I'm sure, an unfair one, but you have to compare them. We're seeing, is the bike a substitute for an e-moto? And that is comparison 7, power. How do they compare in power between the modded Surron and the modded e-bike?
2, 1, go. Oh, holy crap. That's enough childishness for today. Because obviously, you hear it slipping there. You know, this amount of power with my weight on that light, putting a huge
and you saw there in the videos how they compare. Again, I know it's an unfair comparison, but we need to compare and see, can the bike substitute for it. So modded Surron, 25, 30 kilowatts. Obviously, on power level, you're talking 250 four-stroke levels of power. It gets a 5. Just absolutely fun. Like I said, I don't even use full power on this bike most of the time. Most time, I have it set to 12 or 19 kilowatts, not full power. For the CYC X1 bike, I'm going to kind of be generous and give it a 2, although I was thinking about giving it a 1. Power level's not terrible. You know, it's not bad for a bike that only weighs like 26 kilograms, 52 pounds or so. The power to weight ratio still makes it really fun, but really it's not a substitute for a high powered dirt bike. You've got a power assisted bicycle. That's really what it is. So now, comparison number 8. How do these two bikes operate as grocery getters, as errand runners, you know, using for practical everyday use, where you got to go run and get a package or pick up some food, or maybe even doing food delivery or something like that, you know, as a grocery getter? How do the bikes perform?
Riding here, I just want to say, going by these shops and stuff, about using the LVIV as a daily, you know, commuter, as a practical commuter. A lot of people do. I have used it as a kind of practical commuter, also going to, you know, Novi post offices, getting packages and stuff like that. But I believe that the bike is better as a commuter. Nice bakery there. Anyway, no, as a commuter, you know, going to take packages, deliveries, stuff like that, I think the bike is a better choice. I've taken the LVIV before. The main reason is,
in this case, for the Surron, I give it a 3, and for the CYC X1 bike, I give it a 5. You saw in the clips there, Surron, you can use it for local trips, as a grocery getter, things like that. But if you have a modded bike where you put $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 into it, yeah, you're going to be worrying about that bike a lot, even if it's locked up. I've seen cases in the groups where people have had modded Surron stolen, and it's really a shame. Not that it wouldn't hurt to have a modded bicycle stolen too, but it is much more expensive, and you worry about it that much more. The modded e-bike, it works great as a grocery getter. In fact, that's the most common platform for delivery drivers, are e-bikes. So modded e-bike with 4 kilowatts is just going to get your deliveries done that much faster. So yeah, for grocery getter, the CYC X1 bike, it's perfect. Okay, next comparison, and this is a big one, of course. We're talking about price. Now here, I'm talking about the absolute price, the absolute cost of the bike, not the value for money comparison. And in the case of price, what I need to explain is about the Surron and the CYC. When I say $15,000 for the Surron, that it's $15K bike, I'm talking about buying that bike new from a dealer. That's what this bike would have cost from Charge Cycle Works when it was new, which is almost 2 years ago. Now the thing is, of course, the components on this bike, especially now, are a little bit dated and definitely not top of the line. The motor's not top of the line, the battery's not top of the line. There's a new version, the X1, the suspension's not top of the line, but I think if you were to get from a dealer a comparable how this bike was 2 years ago, you know, relatively top of the line with new components that are close to top or near top of the line, you're still going to be looking at about that same price. Now the thing is, the Surron cost $15K, like I said, from a dealer, but as I mentioned in the build video, I my total outlay was only about $7,200, about $7,200 to $7,300. But that's because I built the entire bike myself, did all the labor over like a 2 to 3 month period, and even built the battery myself from all the cells and components, component level build. So saved a lot on the battery there. So you take into account, those two different prices. The building yourself price was really about half the price of buying it from a dealer. Now, just briefly about the CYC X1 bike, the 3500, I'm going to go over a full price breakdown here just shortly in this video where I talk about all the components. But that 3500 plus price, that's again for building it yourself. I built it, took it down to the frame and built it up, and I even built the battery myself. So keep in mind, if you're going to have somebody else purchase, if you're going to purchase a battery from somewhere else, you're definitely going to pay more for the CYC X1 bike because your battery will cost a lot more. Okay, so then what's my rating for the two? Well, the Surron, I give a 1. $15K is super expensive. $7,200 obviously is expensive also. You can get a lot of different toys. You can even buy some decent cars for that amount. But again, nobody ever said Surron or modded e-motos were cheap. It's an expensive hobby, and to get top-of-the-line components, it's just that's what you have to pay. It's super expensive. On the CYC X1, I give it a 3, kind of a so-so rating. It's not super cheap, but again, for the performance you're getting, people can spend $3,500 just on a mountain bike, on a carbon fiber high-end mountain bike, or on a street bike. You can spend a lot more than that. And the other thing to really keep in mind is that compared to some other high-end e-bikes, we're talking about like High Bike or Canyon Bike, and keep in mind that these factory expensive e-bikes, they come with 250-watt Bosch motors in most cases, or Yamaha, but usually Bosch. So you're talking about 250 watts, less than 10%, more like 5% almost, of the power level of this bike. And believe me, more power definitely equals more fun. And I'm showing here some screenshots from Canyon's new bikes. Canyon wasn't building e-bikes when I did this. They kind of copied my idea. So now they have their own powered bike line too. And I think those start around $6,500 and go up to $9,000 or $10,000. So yeah, compared to, some of the high-end pre-built e-bikes, which like I said, have very low power, this actual do-it-yourself build, much cheaper, much more fun in my opinion, because much more powerful. Now, comparison number 10, we're talking about money again, but this time value for money. What kind of value do these bikes, in my opinion, provide for the price that they cost? Are they worth it, in short? Okay, so my scores are, for the Surron, value for money, I give it a 4, and for the CYC X1 e-bike, also for the value for money, I give it a 4. The reason I give the Surron a 4 and not a 5 is just because how ridiculously expensive it is. Like I said, the bike is super fun. I enjoy the heck out of it. It's super fast and powerful. Just I've gotten so much use and utility out of this bike, but you just have to look at whether it's even $7,200, $7,500, or $15,000. Both of those numbers, super friggin' expensive. So yeah, it's very fun, but obviously, like I said, very expensive. So I can't give it a 5 value for money. The CYC X1 bike, I also give it a 4. Obviously much cheaper when you're comparing it to the Surron, but again, $3,500 plus is not cheap, not in my book at least. And compared to other pre-built e-bikes, which are less powerful, like I said, this is much cheaper. But again, I can't give it a 5 because even though yes, I think it provides great value, a bike like this provides great value for the money, especially if you just buy a used frame, donor frame, and start with that. But still, $3,500 is not cheap, so it gets a 4 in value for money. Okay, and finally, a bonus category, number 11, carrying up the stairs. This is for all you fellow apartment dwellers out there, for people who have to carry your crap up the stairs to the 3rd floor or 4th floor because there's no elevator. Now, the thing is, I have total sympathy for you because in general, I'm a homeowner. I have a home that I spent many years and a big chunk of my life building with a normal 1st floor entrance and a normal 1st floor beautiful garage that I also built. But because of the Russian terrorist invasion in Ukraine, it's in an unsafe area and I can't live in my home now. So because of that, I live in a safer, relatively safer area in Ukraine and am renting a piece of crap apartment that's on the 3rd floor in a building, an old Soviet style building that had that has a circular wooden staircase, super steep, super tight and narrow, and just an absolute nightmare to carry anything heavy up. So if you're in an apartment, if you live in an apartment or somewhere where you have to go up the stairs and carry your bike up the stairs, this section is for you. And my rating, probably not a surprise, but for this category, carrying up the stairs, Surron gets a 0. The CYC X1, I give a 4. The e-bike weighs only, like I said, about 26 kilograms, 52 pounds. It's really not too heavy, not too bad at all to carry up the stairs. Not really fun, but it can definitely be done. The Surron, on the other hand, weighing about 65 kilograms or 140 pounds, there's absolutely no way you can carry it up the stairs, especially a steep circular staircase like this. When I've had, at the end of the season, when I've had to take the Surron up these stairs, I actually have to physically take it apart, disassemble it almost down to the frame, and take it up in parts just because it's so heavy to carry upstairs like this. Now, talk briefly about range. This battery also uses 40Ts like the Surron. This is a 20S3P, so you only have 60 cells. It's like 864 watt hours. Obviously the issue is with a dual suspension bike, you have very little space in the frame, very small area. I had to custom make this pack. If you watch the build video, it was very difficult, very tight, really funky layout, 3D print and design a custom, case for it to fit in this frame. So if you have a hardtail, you can have a little more space. But anyway, point is, any bicycle that you're using the CYC X1, you have a smaller space for a pack, and you could use a backpack battery, but I did those before. I hated those. So the Surron, on the other hand, is 22S9P, 36 amp hours. This is 12, and that is 2880 watt hours. So more than 3 times the battery capacity on the Surron. And of course, even though it's heavier and more powerful, you have much more range on the LVIV than you do on this bike. I think on average on this bike, not riding super fast, but medium speed, I get about 35 kilometers, 35 to 40, maybe 35. Surron, I get 80 kilometers of range, and again, that's mixed riding, road and trail, and that's not super fast all the time. You could make a battery pack. I could have made this battery pack for higher capacity. You could make the Surron pack for higher capacity. Both of these I did for high power instead of high capacity. So you could use, Milesl P50Bs and have 25% more capacity, 25% more range. So, like I said, street riding in the city, the bike is fine if you're okay with riding a bike in the street. Now, the second important point to make that I want to talk about quickly here, and I probably mentioned in the build video, but it's valid now, is I want to talk about weak links and how much you're pushing it with a bicycle, putting 4 kilowatts, 4.5 kilowatts into a bike like this that was never made for it. And I'm showing you right here what the 2 main weak links are. The chain and the spline that goes inside the sprocket here. Obviously, with the X1, you guys already probably know you have a larger chain for your primary drive chain, but your secondary is just your usual, your usual 10-speed or 11-speed super skinny. You see how narrow that is. Bicycle chain. Designed for human power, 250, 300, 400 watts. You're putting 10 times the amount of power into this chain than it was designed for. So obviously chain breakage can be an issue. Don't be surprised if it happens. The other thing that is a weak link when you're putting, this much power into a bicycle is not the sprocket. Well, make sure, obviously, you want to have the metal Shimano. There's a 10-speed, not specially, but there is a specific 10-speed Shimano cassette that's metal. I'll put a link to it in the video that you absolutely want to use. You absolutely do not want to use an aluminum, set of sprockets here. So use metal. But the issue is the hub. This is a DT Swiss hub. I had this wheel set custom made DT Swiss. This hub, and most of them, at least DT Swiss, I don't know about Shimano, they come with a spline, like a long shaft, ribbed shaft, if you excuse the pun, a long rib shaft that the sprocket, slides onto and locks onto, and those splines, those little, ribs, are matched by grooves in the sprocket, and that's what transfers obviously all your power to the hub and then to the wheel. So these normally come with aluminum splines, and I've seen firsthand that if you're using aluminum
those will eventually, this is just going to put grooves in it, and eventually it's just going to totally shear off the splines and round them off, and this is just going to be spinning freely, because the aluminum splines, they cannot hold how much power you're putting into it. So you definitely want to replace whatever hub you're using, replace with a metal spline. DT Swiss has one. Ironically, when I built this bike, that was the one thing I overlooked. I didn't put the metal spline in. I didn't have one on hand. I got one, I just haven't changed it yet. I'm sure this is not long for this world. It's going to break soon. So just keep in mind, you know, yeah, it's super fun and cool to have a very, very powerful mountain bike, and this bike is very, very fun. You know, I kind of ignored it after I finished the Surron, because the Surron is, you know, like having a Ferrari when you, it's like, this is a Mitsubishi Evo in the garage and you just bought a Ferrari. Well, you're going to drive the Ferrari. So that's kind of what this bike has been ignored since I built the first Light B. But you know, this year, 2025, I actually have been using the bike a few times, using it a little bit more, and I have to say it's super, super fun. I really enjoy riding it. Okay, so gonna try this again. So, need to talk about some minuses about the Canyon bike, like I was saying. The first thing, and I tried to show it in the riding video in a couple places, is the ridiculous, comically bad throttle delay. Now, I can't show you here because the bike is parked, but hopefully you saw clearly when I was riding. You give it throttle, like quickly, full throttle, and you got a, honestly, 3/4 second, almost full second delay from the throttle going to throttle application to power actually coming down. It's like you make a request with a throttle, that request gets faxed to a committee in the BAC 2000, which I'm not a big fan of BAC, period. It gets faxed to a committee, and this controller committee is off of work. It was a weekend, so Monday about 10:30 after they have coffee, the committee looks at your request, says, oh, I see you'd like to apply full power. Okay, I guess we'll do that. And then the committee stamps their approval on your power request. Power request then goes through the BAC 2000, comes to the motor, and then the motor gear reduction says, well, are you sure you want it? Are you sure you're ready? I'm like, yeah. And then the motor delivers the power. Oh, but first, before it goes to the motor, it goes to the DMV. DMV office, DMV approves it, then to the motor. So a couple points about that. This kit that I got, obviously it's from a few years ago when they only had the BAC 2000. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of BAC. First of all, the whole BAC series, 2000, 4000, 8000, those were around when I first started building fast e-bikes in 2015, 16. And the reason people were using them 10 years ago is because there was no other option. There was like these and the Grin Phase Runner, and that was it. That was all that was on the market, besides cheap, you know, little Chinese controllers that weren't powerful enough. And the BAC is a multi-use controller. These are designed for like golf carts, for the little people trams that pull, you know, run grandmas around Disneyland and stuff like that. They're multi-purpose. They were never designed specifically for fast e-bikes. You know, the enthusiast community, us modders, modified them for e-bikes. So now, but here's the issue, okay? So I said there's a huge throttle delay. Why is it? What's causing it? Well, obviously it's not in the motor. It's not in the gear, the gear reduction in the motor, because that has an instant response to voltage. So it's with the BAC and the programming of the BAC. BAC 2000 and the display, the user interface that you get, this is the old, I forget the model number, but the display that everybody uses, the Chinese display. So BAC 2000 is not user programmable for a multitude of different controls. Like, for example, throttle expo, you know, your throttle curve, the relation of the input to the output, throttle curve, the voltage expo of the throttle, where your 0 point and where your full point is. You can't set different amps and different power levels for specifically for each power setting. Basically, the controls are set. You know, when you buy the BAC 2000, you get a very simple user interface here, 5 power levels, CYC, and that's it. No customization. This is, you know, designed to simplify it for simple tons, but that's the thing about the X9000 is, and I'll show some screenshots, and this I covered in detail.
in my Surron build videos. The great thing about the X9000 compared to back is hugely customizable. So on the app there, you can control obviously power level. You got 6 different settings, 3 race and 3 street. You can control power level, amps for each setting. You can control your throttle expo curve. You can control the throttle dead zone. Just a huge multitude of, in my opinion, necessary adjustments, to customize the bike. So the fact that it has, a ridiculously, when you ride the Surron and you hit the throttle, the response is just instant. Pops up the front end absolutely instantly. After like 6 months of not riding this bike, after I built the Surron, I got on this and I just actually laughed out loud when I hit the throttle, and there was like, a over half-second delay between throttle and power coming on. I was just laughing that like it goes through a committee. So that is one huge minus, and that's attributable to the back 2000. And the other thing, I was saying about programmability, ASI Accelerated Systems, who makes the backs, they lock the firmware. You have to be like a special back authorized dealer person programmer to be able to go into the program and actually modify the code and modify the the curves, power, all that. End user cannot do that, which is really effed up. ASI has been known to do that for a long time, so that's it. Okay, big minus number 2 compared to the Surron, and I've already mentioned this during riding, but I need to say it again because it's a huge thing. No regen. The bike has absolutely no regen. This is your gear selector, not a thumb regen. I many times when I'm riding this now, I'm so used to having the regen on the Surron, I find like my thumb is phantom looking for the regen lever here too. I love having regen. I love putting power back in the battery. Okay, next minus compared to the Surron is waterproofing. Now the thing is, obviously, I had to custom made and design this 3D printed battery case to fit in this Canyon Nerve medium-sized frame. This is not waterproofed really at all. I just have this cover that goes on here. I made a little gasket inside, but my IP rating on this is about a 2. So waterproofing, if you custom make a battery for this battery case, make sure you pay attention to waterproofing. On this specific bike, it's waterproof basically for Calabasas, California, not for any wetter climates. As far as the back 2000 and the X1, the X1, I don't know what their IP rating is, but they rate it quite waterproof. In general, the back 2000 and the other backs are pretty water resistant. I did silicone around everywhere here. That was what I was going to say about the back. So when I got this was the only option. Now, CYC has started with the Gen 4. This is the V3. They started making their own controllers. So you can mention in the comments anybody who has the newer version with a CYC controller. Have they addressed the issue with the throttle delay? Are you experiencing that like I showed here? What about customization for throttle expo, for zero voltage? I doubt that they put all those super advanced adjustments in there, controls. But let me know, for those of you who have the X1 with a CYC controller, do you have more adjustments, more control in your user interface? And are you experiencing that throttle delay? Okay, next point I wanted to make briefly is about the CYC X1 itself. I'll try to make this as quick as possible, but I just want to say why the CYC X1 is the power plan of choice for making your modded high power e-bikes now. Why it is really the top choice, and why I think there's a lot of interest in it now, besides what I was saying about Surrons being outlawed in a lot of places, why people are really looking at CYC X1, and some manufacturers are using them already in their bikes. The thing is, before this existed, the BBS HD, the Cyclone was the original high power motor. That's what Eric used, fast electric bike. That's what a lot of the very early adopters used, was a Cyclone. Then a few years after that, BAFANG, first they had their BBS 01, which was 750 watts, not interesting. They had the BBS HD, which I've done about 12 bike builds with. That is stock rated at 48 volts and 1500 watts. But people learned, including me especially, that you can mod them at 72 volts and the BBS HD at 72 volts and I believe 45 amps maximum. It runs absolutely phenomenal at 72 volts. Alan from Electric Race Technologies, Alan Shu, made
made a kit, 72 volt ERT kit for BBS-HD. I built several bikes with those, and the BBS-HD with 72 volts, absolute blast. Look at my previous channel, California Electric Bike Ukraine. I'll put links in the description. I have tons of videos with my 72 volt BBS-HD bikes. I still have them. They're still super fun. Now those bikes top out at 3,300 watts. As I was saying, 72 volt BBS-HDs top out at 3,300 watts. When I first finished this bike and first started riding it, talking about the power level, I'm like, you know, they rate this at what, 5,000 or 5,200, 55, something like that. I'm like, there's no way this does not feel like 60% more powerful than my 72 volt BBS-HD. It absolutely isn't. And riding all the time, when I'm riding at the hardest, which I haven't shown in this video, obviously, the most I've seen is like 4,200 watts. So I would not say that this, and the battery, obviously my battery can produce way more amps than what this is using for 4,200 watts. So the most I've seen on it is 4,200, and that's why I'm gonna say it's a 4,200 watt power plant. It's not 5,000. They overrate it. Anyway, the point I'm making is about BAFANG and why the CYC X1 is your main power plant for high power bikes. Do it yourself. So BBS-HD, 72 volt motors. People were also replacing the gear with a brass gear and metal gear, which I was like the first to experiment with that. Those videos are also on my California Electric Bike Ukraine channel from like 10 years ago. So that was great. Eric even made several trips to BAFANG factory in China. He was working with them to try to push them to support the enthusiast community, to build higher power motors to support 72 volts and, you know, high power controllers. BAFANG unfortunately went the other direction, and they screwed the enthusiast community. They screwed the early adopters. I believe there's a guy from UK who really talks a lot about this and how BAFANG screwed everybody. I don't know if it's Francis. I'll put a link to those videos, but he described it in detail. But I'll just say really briefly what happened with BAFANG and the BBS-HD is they said they're not interested in the enthusiast community. They don't want to have the liability of, you know, people riding fast bikes 50, 60 miles an hour with 3.5 plus kilowatts. So they released their new version of the BBS-HD with a locked controller setting that you can't use it with a firmware with any aftermarket controller, meaning you can't mod it, you can't hot rod it, you can't 72 volt it. It has to be used with their built-in controller. Also, I believe, and you can correct me if it's wrong, I think it has to be tied to their batteries. In short, they went the direction of like Bosch, you know, so only integrated solution, low power. They're not interested in performance in the performance community, so they really screwed over the enthusiasts. So the fact that BAFANG is totally out of the game now, that really just leaves CYC, and they're the ones who are embracing the performance community. They're embracing really cool bike builds, you know, high power, high performance. You can see on their site, their Instagram, they show really cool bike builds. They should show mine, actually. Mine is one of the first ones that's a cool bike build. So yeah, CYC X1, this is really the main now, in my opinion, and only solution for high performance DIY e-bikes. Okay, cost breakdown. I know I covered cost kind of briefly in the build video, but I don't know if I really detailed it out a lot, and I know that's a really interesting, you know, obviously interesting thing for people. And since there's a lot more interest in doing CYC X1 bikes now, I want to just kind of quickly go over the cost again, do a cost breakdown, and explain what I paid for it and how it compares to the Surron. Okay, first of all, the bike itself, photos I'll show again, I did in the build video. This is, I bought used, very well used, very scratched, 2016 Canyon Nerve AL aluminum. It's a lower model of it, I think 6.0 or something, very basic model. Bought it in, what, 3 years ago, no, in 2022. So paid about $900 for that, got it used in Ukraine. I see on the ads that these still go for about the same price, but one important point to make, so it's a great, I absolutely love Canyon. Again, look on my California Electric Bike channel, also the articles, the build articles I wrote on electricbike.com. I wrote several articles about my builds of Canyon bikes. Okay, but here's the thing, this is a great bike to choose if you want to build this type of bike again. The main thing though to think about is on their newer bikes, and I'll put some photos here, their newer bikes, they all do the shock instead of this way with a cantilever, which I prefer, by the way, far prefer. They do the shock
arm straight and the shock is right there in the middle of the triangle, which completely eliminates the possibility of doing this kind of bike with it, obviously, because you need the triangle space open for your battery. So the newer style with a shock in the middle there, totally, can't do it. Other thing I want to mention here is this is a medium size Nerv, the AL 6.0 medium size frame. I also had a medium in my Strive bike that I built. For me, being 5'9", and that's about, 175 centimeters and 32-inch inseam, this is perfect. I was concerned that if I got a larger one, the seat height was going to be too high. In general, it's better, obviously, you want to get a larger frame. L or XL frame would be better because you have more space for the battery. This battery, I really had to squeeze in there. So, if you're a little taller, if you think you can handle a bigger frame, I would definitely go for the largest frame that you can fit. That'll give you more battery space. But like I said, the newer style Canyon bikes, you can't use them for this kind of bike. Okay, so that was a frame, $900. Now, obviously, the main component, the biggest cost, was the X1 set. I bought that, kind of a display model used, open box. It was new, but they had gotten it. Bear e-bike in Poland had gotten it for testing and never used it. So this complex with the color display in the back 2000 was $1,200. I don't know what the cost is for the new. I'll put on the screen for what the new version 4 with their controller cost, but that was the biggest cost. So $1,200 for the X1. So next thing, battery. Now, I showed in the build video, I custom made the battery. The battery for this bike was actually really inexpensive. I only spent about $430 maybe on it because you only have 60 cells, 60 40Ts, 20 S3P, controller. This was before I discovered ANT BMS. Not controller, BMS. Controller was about $60. Nickel strips. This is before copper nickel bus bars, although this pack you couldn't have used it for anyway. So in general, and the 3D printed case wasn't that much either. So I only spent about, let's say, $450 total for this pack. Now, again, the problem is you're going to need, if you're doing it on a bike like this, you're going to need to either build a pack yourself or have somebody custom build you a pack to fit in the size. I will, I think I did it on the build video before, but I'll again link it in here, my 3D printed file. So if you happen to have a Canyon Nerv or the same Canyon bike shape, you can have this 3D printed case and use for yourself, or if you have a bigger frame, you can enlarge it a little bit, use it as a template to enlarge. So again, the battery pack in this bike, only about $400 to $450 total, quite cheap because I built it myself and because it's so small. Okay, next, let's talk about suspension. Now, suspension, I absolutely cheaped out as much as possible on this bike. I got the cheapest at the time Chinese dual crown fork, the absolute cheapest dual crown fork that you could get 3 years ago. This is the Balani. Balani dual crown fork. It was, I will put on the screen here, but approximately $240, $220 or $240. Very, very inexpensive. I was worried if it was going to be, fall apart, die, break on a jump, be leaking. It actually has performed not bad at all. It hasn't leaked. The air has stayed in, the fluid has stayed in. It's been pretty stiff and pretty rigid. As far as not flexing a lot, it actually feels a little stiffer and more rigid than my Dorado on the Surron. So yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised with this pretty much cheapest fork that you could get from AliExpress. But keep in mind, I used the bike a lot initially the first season, 2023. After that, I built the Surron, and basically this bike has been sitting 90% of the time since I built the Surron. So hasn't been used a lot. But yeah, that's been good. On the shock, I just kept the stock shock that came with the Canyon Nerv AL 2016. Okay, let's talk about brakes. Now, this is where I really splurged and spent a lot of money. MT7 race lines. Absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. MT7 race lines. Magura gets a lot of hate in the Surron forums, I know that, but these are super expensive. They're like $600. The point is, I wanted the MT7 race line and not the regular MT7, mainly because they look cool, because they are a cool neon yellow accent to the rest of the color of the bike. Gives it a nice accent because the bike is kind of a very boring gray. But on this bike, the MT7s have been phenomenal. So these cost about $600. So that was a big splurge. But you can get standard MT7s if you want to use the standard. There's still good brakes for about
$250 to $300 for a set. And rotors definitely use MDRP, the biggest size you can fit, like 220. Wheels and tires. I had these custom made. I wanted these exact wheels in order to have the width that I wanted for the front and rear. I showed in the build video, but I am like really pushing the limit on what can fit there. Very, very tight. And on the front, that's about the widest you can fit. So yeah, DT Swiss M542s, 350 there, front and rear for the hubs. Had them custom made with these tires. The wheel set, and like I said, they're tubeless. So the wheel set together with the DT Swiss, I got these all from Germany. The hubs, wheels, spokes, having them assembled, and with the tires, you're looking at about $500, $450 to $500, not cheap. But in general, I'm really a big fan of DT Swiss. Really love their quality, German quality. And yeah, you can build a wheel set obviously cheaper, but that's about what this one costs on this bike. That just leaves a few other components. Like I said, I switched out the cassette and used the Shimano 10-speed metal cassette. Very important to do. Very important to use the metal spline, like I said, inside the hub. You can hear under a lot of power, I'm starting to slip on the gears, so I believe my chain is wearing out. The cassette teeth, those are still being steel. The cassette teeth, those really are fine. So chain is starting to wear out, I believe. I use these really cool race face CNC aluminum ones as a nice color accent, so those are great. Cranks came with the CYC X1. That's about it for the rest of the modified components. I got these cheap AliExpress handlebars, copy of race face for the color match. So yeah, I will total up on the screen what the total cost is. Oh, just one other quick thing I want to mention. I said this in the build video. So everything on the bike is modified from stock. The only stock components left on this bike are the frame, the seat and seat post. Those are stock. The stem still has the factory stem, and the shock. Those are the only stock components left on this bike. Everything else aftermarket and modified. So I'll total up. In general, it was, I believe, just a bit above $3,500, which is not cheap, obviously, compared to a $15,000 Surron. It is cheap, much cheaper than doing a modded Surron, obviously. And the question is, you know, is $3,500 for this bike a good value for the money? To me, it absolutely is. And I'm going to put on screen here what that compares to for new Canyon e-bikes. Canyon is now, after me, several years after I did it, they are making electrified, motorized versions of a couple of their bikes, and those range from, I think, about $6,500 to over $9,000. So compared to $6,000 to $9,000, $3,500, a little over, is a great deal. And again, you could save money by going with cheaper brakes. You know, some other, the suspension is pretty cheap to begin with. So $3,500 compared to a modded Surron, you know, it's still quite a bit cheaper. Okay, so for my conclusion, I'll try to make this as brief as humanly possible. But again, the question is, can a fast e-bike powered by the CYC X1, can it be a substitute for a powerful e-moto? Is it as fun? Is it as useful as a powerful e-moto? Well, you saw from my extensive testing here, and sorry the video was kind of long, I went over all the pros and cons of each bike in each of those segments and comparisons. Now, briefly to recap, let's talk about the Surron first, the pros and the cons. Pros for the Surron, obviously, main thing, super fast, super high performance level, super fun. Like I said, I absolutely love riding mine. You can also keep up with traffic because it's so powerful. They're so powerful. You can keep up with traffic on main roads. If you are going to ride on the road, you can more safely ride and keep up with traffic, which is a big thing. Also, the modified e-motos are equally adept and have equal ability for road riding, for motocross, and for trails. You can really use them for all three things. And one thing really quickly here that I didn't mention before, you can make a Light B or an Ultra B street legal. It's not really that hard to do. The easy way to do it is you can just buy the 1LE version, the street legal version of the Surron Light B, or from dealers, some are selling street legal versions of Ultra Bs. So those are easy ways to get a street legal bike, or you can buy kits
kits that can make your light be street legal. So it is possible to make these bikes street legal, which is a big pro. Now let's talk quickly about the cons for the Surron, for the Light B. Obviously, like I said, expensive. They're super expensive. A modded Light B, very big investment. And again, the point of this whole video, more and more cities and more places, the police are cracking down on them. Public perception is bad. And of course, like I showed, you can get fined or even have your bike confiscated for riding e-motos in the street. So that's a huge problem. Next con, too heavy for the stairs, like I showed. And because of the negative public perception that has unfortunately come about in many places, you can get problems or negative reactions when you're riding, you know, in mixed use places, like on pedestrian paths, bike paths, mixed use trails. You can have problems from the public. So those are the cons for the Surron. Now let's talk about the CYC X1 high performance e-bike. Okay, so briefly, pros and cons for the CYC X1 fast e-bike. Pros, first of all, obviously, great thing is you can ride it anywhere that a bicycle is okay to ride. You're not going to run into problems with pedestrians or other bike riders in most cases. You know, you're not going to have problems with Karens chasing after you like that video I showed from the Surron. And in most cases, you're not going to have problems with the police because they aren't really going to know whether your e-bike is 250 watts or 4 kilowatts. The bike is still fairly powerful. You know, it's fast enough to have fun with. It's high performance enough to really have fun with and go quickly on trails or on the roads. Another pro for the CYC X1, much less expensive, obviously, than a modded Surron, and even much less expensive than factory e-bikes, like I showed from Canyon and High Bike. Bike is much lighter than an e-moto, so if you live somewhere where you have to go up the stairs, it's a big plus. And another plus, obviously, you can get exercise too. You can just pedal it like a regular bike, like I showed. Now, cons for the CYC bike, there's several of them that you still have to think about. Obviously, first of all, even though it's much cheaper than a modded Surron or factory bike, still very expensive. $3,500 to $4,000, not cheap at all for most people, so still expensive. Second con, you can't really ride on big public roads and keep up with traffic. If you're going to ride on the roads, you need to, you know, keep to the right like a regular bicycle, which to me is dangerous, and you can't keep up with traffic like you can with a more powerful, you know, e-moto that's made street legal. So for road riding, it's much better. And obviously, like I said, for long road trips, you can't even really think about it for the CYC bike unless you're going to pedal, because the range is much less than an e-moto. And lastly, of course, like I showed, has much less power, much less performance than the Surron. And because of that, at least for me, it means it's less fun. Because of that, I ride my Surron, modded Surron, much more often than I ride my CYC bike. So then, what's my conclusion? Is the bike actually a substitute for a powerful e-moto? Well, for me, I'm afraid to say the answer is no, not totally. Personally, I do miss the power and the super high performance of the Surron, but the e-bike is still really fun to ride. But here's the thing, if you live somewhere where e-motos are getting stopped more and more, getting confiscated, having more and more problems with the police, then yes, definitely a fast e-bike is a great alternative that won't attract so much attention and problems from the police. It's better than having nothing at all to ride. Now, of course, sadly, this is the reality that we e-moto owners must live in now, with many municipalities cracking down on road riding for these. But the thing is, with a fast e-bike like mine with the CYC X1, you can still really have fun with them. Something that's fast, something that's high performance, something that's motorized and can zip you around quickly. The thing is, for me, I love both of them. I love the Surron and the CYC bike, and I'm going to keep and use them both. So that's it. Thanks for watching till the end. If you watched the whole thing, please like and subscribe. I'm going to produce a separate video showing my full rides around LVIV on both bikes. So if you want to see those full ride videos, I'll have that coming soon. And again, thanks for watching. I've ridden this bike on the road a lot around here, but Ukraine is not like how LA is now. Oh, that's kind of that entrance. Oh, this is, oh my God, almost forgot. This is what I was going to show you guys. So this is LVIV Polytechnic. Can you see that? Hold on. I don't want to film here for too long. Do you see that broken glass and all the boarded up windows? So
not last night, but 2 nights ago, this is where one of the Shaheeds hit. If you can see, hold on, I don't know. You can see all the broken glass there. Try to show through the thing. If you can see all the broken glass, boarded up windows, they quickly did basic repair. You see the broken glass and shit there. So this is where the Russian terrorist state 2 nights ago, they sent about more than a dozen, I'd say 15 Shaheed killer drones into Lviv. I heard them myself. I was not far away from here, this impact point. This is Lviv Polytechnic University. I read that 3 Shaheeds hit here. And yeah, they sent them no military purpose. This is a university, a technical university in Lviv. No military purpose, just simply So I just want to show here, I got my big camera out. See this broken glass and this shit? Noisy. See the broken glass there? You got broken glass on the street. And there. This is what the Russian terrorist state does. 2025 in a major European city. This is the Russian terrorist state attacking civilians in Lviv. Like I said, I heard these hitting not far from me 2 nights ago. And thank God nobody got from this attack, but you can see here, this is a small, very small bit of destruction compared to what is going on in my home city of Kherson, where they attack and murder civilians every day in a human safari. But anyway, thank God nobody was killed in this attack. Thank God for that. And you know what? We're going to survive. We're going to live on. We're going to defeat the Russian terrorist state. And that's it. Glory to Ukraine.